My name is Angela. I'm the leasing consultant at Old City Hall Apartments. And on behalf of Beacon Communities, I want to thank everyone that took the time out of their day to come here for this event. It is the 105th birthday commemoration for Old City Hall Apartments. And I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Ken Froh.
Okay. Thank you, Angela. As she said, my name is Ken Froh. I represent the Historical Society of Dauphin County, and I want to thank Old City Hall Apartments and Beacon Properties for having me here today. The corner of Walnut and Aberdeen Streets, where we are, was originally the site of the Lancasterian School, a two-story brick building built in 1829. It was so named for its English method of monitorial or mutual instruction. In the days following the Battle of Gettysburg, as were most of the buildings, the public buildings in Harrisburg, such as schools and churches, the Lancasterian School saw use as a 126-bed hospital for wounded Union soldiers. Until Central High School, the city's first co-ed school, was opened in 1893, Lancasterian, by then renamed the DeWitt Building, served as Boys Union High. It was former Superintendent of Schools Lemuel O. Foose' suggestion, however, for starting an all-male technical training facility for Harrisburg, combining manual training with academic studies all under one roof. While hardly a new concept by local standards, Harrisburg bordered on pure adventure. As first opened in the DeWitt Building in 1904 on this site, Harrisburg Technical High School boasted a 3-year course and 55 pupils. A 2-story rear addition designed by local architect Charles Howard Lloyd was built for additional shop space. It still sits to the rear of the building today. Following demolition of the nearly 80-year-old DeWitt portion of the building, Lloyd's 4-story English collegiate style, as he termed it, architecture was unique among city schools as it proved a magnet for area students. West Shore residents paid tuition to come here. Formally dedicated and opened in the fall of 1911, Tech, sadly, would remain in service for only 20 years. Couldn't get this all on one page. Its graduates, particularly Paris-born Jacques Bazoun, with a class of 1924 who wrote the celebrated book Teacher in America, are still heralded for their athleticism, particularly at football. The Tech Maroons were a powerhouse team in central Pennsylvania between the years 1904 and 1925, compiling 131 wins, 53 ties, with only 11 losses. That's high school. Tech, along with Central, became just a wonderful memory when it was closed in June 1926. That fall, William Penn and John Harris High Schools were opened, and a new era for Harrisburg began. I'd like to introduce Jeb Stewart to pick up where I'm leaving off.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeb Stewart, and I'm a Harrisburg citizen. Old City Hall and I go back to 1974. I hate to admit that. When I was a college intern and later a historic preservation planner in the City Planning Bureau, which was located on the east side of the second floor of the building, which is up there on the second floor. There we laid the groundwork for the creation of the Municipal Historic Districts and the Architectural Review Board, among other projects. After that, I became city clerk to Harrisburg City Council, and that was really a time to remember. Our offices and the City Council chambers were located on the third floor of the building. Third floor on that side, as Mr. Surahan would remember. Following being city clerk and as director of the Downtown Harrisburg Historic Preservation Project in 1980, Our goal was to identify buildings and districts downtown that should be preserved while the Harristown Urban Renewal Plan was being implemented. Old City Hall was on the Redevelopment Authority's demolition list, believe it or not, to be replaced by potential new development. And we worked successfully, even though it was controversial at the time, to have it removed from the demolition list. In 1982, I became employed by the city with the goal of continuing to carry on historic preservation work. New City Hall was under construction on Market Square, and plans to sell Old City Hall were initiated. This included our being able to list the building in the National Register of Historic Places due to its historical and architectural significance, to leverage the historic tax credit as a development incentive. I was involved with authoring the request for proposals to seek a developer for the project, with market rate housing being the preferred use. 2 proposals were submitted. The PAD organization from Hollidaysburg, which wanted to do offices, and Historic Landmarks for Living from Philadelphia, which had a track record in adaptive reuse residential projects. Obviously, Historic Landmarks won out with doing the first project of its type in Harrisburg. Beacon Communities continues to carry on the marvelous legacy of this building as a classic and beautifully maintained residential destination. And with that said, I'd now like to introduce David Morrison, who's the Acting Executive Director of the Historic Harrisburg Association.
Thank you very much, Jeb. It's great to be here today. What a great celebration. Perhaps no other phenomenon has done as much for the revitalization of American cities like Harrisburg as has historic preservation. It makes our neighborhoods more livable. It makes our downtowns more attractive to tourism and development of cultural life and social life and restaurants and activities like that. And it helps to build the economy in a lot of ways. Harrisburg exemplifies this and has done so for more than 40 years, since the early 1970s. You need at least 4 ingredients to make this successful. First of all, you need a knowledge and appreciation of the history and architecture of the community. And perhaps few people in all of Pennsylvania exemplify that more than architectural historian Ken Frew. We're very fortunate to have him here in Harrisburg contributing all that he does. You also need historic preservation know-how in order to navigate the technical and financial and procedural and governmental pathways to completing a project like this, as Jeb Stewart described. And I have to say that Jeb Stewart has been a forerunner, and he literally wrote the book for historic preservation projects here in the Harrisburg area, and he has successfully guided dozens of them over the last 40 years. So Jeb, we thank you as well. You need investors and businesses and individual investors who are willing to take on a challenge, often with many unknown aspects and no prior example to follow. And each one of these is unique, and this one certainly was a unique project, being converted to its 3rd use, first as a school, then as a city hall, and ultimately as apartments. The companies that have been involved in this project also are leaders in their field. Historic Landmarks for Living, which developed the project, and Beacon Communities today, which maintains it so beautifully and so successfully and makes it such a credit to our downtown. Beacon, bravo to you, and the 105th anniversary of your property. Lastly, none of this would be possible without a governmental environment that embraces and supports historic preservation. We've been very fortunate in Harrisburg for over 40 years, from the time of Mayor Harold Swenson up to today with Mayor Eric Papenfuss, that the city of Harrisburg has embraced and encouraged and participated in historic preservation and to a degree that is unmatched anywhere in Pennsylvania outside of the city of Philadelphia. So that, I think, is a huge reason for why Harrisburg is a thriving and attractive, desirable place to live, to invest, and we're very fortunate for that. I first got to know Mayor Papenfuss when he and I were both involved in efforts to revitalize the Midtown, North 3rd Street. And we worked with small businesses, and of course his business, the Midtown Scholar Bookstore, is in a historic building which is beautifully converted as a bookstore and major destination in Midtown. And that really exemplifies the kind of understanding of historic preservation. And he has carried that same understanding and vision to his role as our mayor. Mayor, I am very pleased to congratulate you and introduce you at this time.
That was rather regal. I'm not sure. Yeah, wow. That has never happened before. Thank you. What an honor. I am a lover of history, and I'm especially a lover of Harrisburg history, so it is a real honor to be here with David and Jeb and Ken. Quite the brain trust. Ask those guys anything at all about the city's history, and they generally know it. And as a plug for Ken, if you want to find out more about this building, the architect behind it, other historic buildings in Harrisburg, buy his book, Building Harrisburg. It's a wonderful, wonderful history. So, thank you, Ken. Well, let's get right to it. I'm not gonna go over all the historic details again because you've heard it. But in honor of this birthday celebration, I want to jump right to the chase and present this proclamation. And I will just read the last two lines, which are, whereas today, October 9th, 2015, the city of Harrisburg shares in the commemoration and celebration of the 105th birthday of Old City Hall, therefore be it proclaimed that today is Old City Hall Day in the city of Harrisburg. Congratulations. Will you come up and accept the proclamation on behalf of the city? Thank you. Thank you. Let me just say a couple things. This was my first time visiting the old mayor's office, and I was already transported and taken back 35 years and beyond. It's really beautiful. It's wonderful. The windows are great. I think we should acknowledge some of the gentlemen that are here that used to work in this building. We have Gary, who was our finance director, and Charlie, who was our budget director, and Dimitri, I don't know what your position was. What was it? Deputy treasurer. I mean, and it goes on, and these gentlemen worked every day right behind me in the building. They remember the manual elevator and the person who worked it. They remember the press conferences, which used to be not on these steps, but on the steps in the hallway. You'll see when you come in, it's just gorgeous and beautiful right on the central landing. And we're lucky to have you here, and we honor that part of our history. I also know a little bit about Lancastrian schools. Little known fact, but I once studied them and their implementation here in the United States of America. And this is in the early 19th century. And they were very famous because they were the first schools that really emphasized discipline in the classroom. And if you can imagine, one of the punishments if you were a young child and you misbehaved at your Lancastrian school was that they would put you in a basket and they would wheel the basket up to the ceiling of the building and they would just leave you there for the rest of the day and then bring you down at the end of the day. So we don't have that today, but that's the type of discipline that was here. And if you imagine that history starting here and then moving to the history of it as a hospital and then as a school and then as a governmental institution, you really have all these amazing stories echoing throughout the hallway and echoing in all of our minds. So
That's where we got the vaulted ceilings.
it could be that inspired the vaulted ceilings. Yes. So I think it is also important to note on this occasion that we are celebrating a historic birthday, but we are also celebrating the wonderful apartment development that this building has become. And we are seeing in the city of Harrisburg today people moving in from all over, wanting to experience a sort of luxurious city living in a fine apartment environment. You're seeing conversions all over this city right now. I'm not sure that the media has fully picked up on this trend, but on Locust Street, here in Strawberry Square, elsewhere, you are seeing conversions of office space into high-end apartments. Well, you were the forerunners to that. You were the trailblazers. They're following in the footsteps here of Old City Hall, and it shows a tremendous, tremendous demand. And all of these apartment conversions that are occurring right now all have long waiting lists and a lot of excited people moving into the city. So that is a relatively recent development that's happened only in the last couple of years, and it reflects a larger trend in the country as a whole for people, especially young professionals, wanting to come in and share the advantages of urban living and urban life. And if you look at this situation, you look out the windows in the mayor's office, you stand here on the steps, you see that you have all that the city has to offer, all within easy walking distance of right here. I can go get my burrito, my Jamaican sensation at Soul Burrito. I can walk over to Strawberry Square. I can visit the governor or my state representative, who I can practically see through the windows of the office building there. I can go down to City Hall. I can enjoy Restaurant Row. I can go to Riverfront Park, walk across to City Island. This is an amazing location. And what sets it apart is the beautiful historic architecture and the adaptive reuse of that architecture. And there are so many people that are looking to capture that historic spirit in the place where they live. And I welcome all of you to come in and tour with me this building after this announcement, see what the apartments look like, see what this building has to offer. It is a wonderful asset for the city of Harrisburg. And as sorry as I am that the office is still not in the corner, it has become something which has brought, how many units are there? 82. 82 units that have brought scores and scores of residents into the city here, living and contributing to the life of our great capital. So it is an honor to celebrate your birthday. We look both backwards and forwards to the future here, and I thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for coming.
Yes? I'm jealous already. Holy cow. Wow. Can you imagine? This is beautiful.
That's really
Beautiful.
It's a real mayor's office. How about it?
It's fantastic. So what are the coats of arms?
We believe that they were the original to the building when it was Tech High. And then I don't think that they were painted until what became the mayor's office. Jail cells were kept. Now we use them just as storage areas.
I see. Okay.
If you take out the storage containers, this is basically what they had to look at when they were incarcerated down here.
We are here at Old Harrisburg City Hall, and we have beautiful, historic apartments for rent at reasonable prices. Amazing lofts, original woodwork, and all the comforts of city living. And I encourage everyone to come by and check them out. I certainly enjoyed my visit today, and I've also enjoyed having the opportunity to sit in the original mayor's office here, which was for many years home to the mayor of Harrisburg.
home last to Steve Reed very early on, first year as mayor, before he moved to the current City Hall. And I admit to a degree of jealousy because we have nothing like the large windows and the tall ceilings and the grand woodwork today, but we do have a very practical space. We are in the midst of a revival of young professionals wanting to come in and enjoy apartment living in Center City, Harrisburg, and conversion after conversion is taking place of offices into residential units, and this was sort of the building that started that trend back when it was converted from City Hall into apartments, and now everyone is following. We have so many wonderfully preserved neighborhoods and buildings. It's a very special place to both live and work, and that is going to be something we need to preserve for future generations.
3, 2,